close this video now. Seriously, what you're about to learn will fundamentally change how you see every relationship, every interaction, every person you trust. Once you understand what Machiavelli actually documented about human nature, you can't unknow it. You can't unsee the patterns. You can't return to comfortable ignorance. In 1513, a disgraced diplomat sat in exile and wrote observations about human behavior so disturbing that the Catholic Church banned his work for 200 years. Not because what he wrote was false, but because it was too true. Because once people understood these patterns, they could no longer be controlled through the same mechanisms. Because knowledge this, powerful in the hands of ordinary, people threatened every established hierarchy. Machiavelli didn't teach people how to be evil. He revealed the evil already being practiced against them. He documented the manipulation already happening. He exposed the game already being played, and the people running that game didn't want you to understand the rules. Today, I'm giving you the observations that made Machiavelli's name synonymous with forbidden knowledge, not sanitized versions, not academic interpretations, the actual patterns he documented about, how power works, how manipulation operates, and how the people around you are playing games you don't even now exist. This changes everything: your friendships, your romantic relationships, your career, your family dynamics. Once you see these patterns, you'll recognize them everywhere, and you can never go back to trusting the way you did before. Last chance to close this video and keep your comfortable illusions intact. Still here? Then let's reveal what you're not supposed to know. Pattern 1. Everyone is always performing. Here's Machiavelli's first forbidden observation. Everyone sees what you appear to be. Few experience what you really are. Translation: every person you interact with is performing a version of themselves strategically crafted for social consumption. The person you think you know is a carefully constructed presentation, not their actual self. This isn't occasional dishonesty. This is constant universal performance that operates beneath conscious awareness. Your best friend is performing friendship while managing their actual interests and calculations. Your romantic partner is performing love while maintaining strategic options and boundaries. Your colleagues are performing cooperation while positioning for advantage. The performance isn't necessarily malicious. It's adaptive human behavior. We learn early that showing our complete authentic selves leads to social punishment. So we craft personas that get us what we need while protecting our vulnerabilities, but the result is that you never actually know anyone fully and no one actually knows you. Watch your own behavior honestly. You act differently with your boss than with your friends. You present differently on first dates than after months of relationship. You show certain parts of yourself to family and hide others. You manage how others perceive you constantly. This is performance. Everyone else is doing the same thing. The friendly colleague has calculations beneath the friendliness. The loving partner has boundaries beneath the affection. The supportive friend has limits beneath the support. You're never seeing complete authenticity. You're seeing managed presentation designed to achieve social objectives. Machiavelli observed that princes who believed their advisors performed loyalty often found themselves betrayed by those same advisors when circumstances changed. The loyalty was performance serving the advisor's interests until it didn't. Your relationships work the same way. The person who performs friendship today will stop performing it when the performance no longer serves their interests. The person who performs love will stop when their needs shift or better options appear. The person who performs loyalty has already calculated when disloyalty becomes more advantageous. This is uncomfortable because it means you can't fully trust Anyun's presentation, but it's liberating because it means you can stop expecting authentic constancy from humans who are fundamentally strategic and adaptive. People will be consistent as long as consistency serves them. When it doesn't, they'll change, not because they're evil, but because they're human. Your protection is recognizing the performance without being naive about it. Enjoy relationships for what they provide while they last without expecting them to last forever based on performed promises. The person performing today may not perform tomorrow, and that's simply how human relationships work. Pattern 2, all loyalty is conditional and temporary. Machiavelli wrote, men are ungrateful, fickle, false, cowardly, covetous, and as long as you succeed, they are yours entirely. But when danger approaches, they turn against you. This is his most brutal observation about loyalty, that it's never actually loyal. It's always conditional on your continued ability to provide benefit and avoid becoming a liability. Watch this pattern in your own life. The friends who were intensely present while you were successful, fun, or useful. Then circumstances changed. You faced hardship, or you became less entertaining, or you couldn't provide what they wanted anymore. Suddenly, they were too busy to maintain the friendship. The loyalty evaporated the moment conditions changed. This isn't unique to bad friends. This is universal human behavior. People remain in relationships, friendship, romantic, professional, familial, as long as the benefits exceed the costs. When that calculation shifts, most people shift their loyalty accordingly, not consciously or maliciously, just naturally as daft interested organisms. Your romantic partner's devotion, right, now is conditioned on you continuing to meet their needs, remaining attractive to them, and not presenting better alternatives. If those conditions change, the devotion changes. This sounds cynical until you examine your own behavior and realize you operate the same way. The loyalty people show you isn't about you, it's about what you provide to them. Status, entertainment, emotional support, practical benefits, sexual access, social connections, financial advantages. As long as you provide sufficient value relative to the costs of maintaining the relationship, loyalty continues. When the math changes, so does the loyalty. Machiavelli documented this, watching political alliances dissolve instantly when circumstances shifted. The ally who swore eternal loyalty yesterday becomes your enemy today because today your defeat serves their interests better than your success. The mechanism operates identically in personal relationships. People stay loyal as long as your success benefits them and abandon you when your difficulties become their liability. This is why truly unconditional loyalty is so rare. Parents sometimes achieve it with children, and even that's not universal. Most other relationships claiming unconditional loyalty are actually deeply conditional. The conditions just haven't been tested yet. When they are tested, the conditionality reveals itself. Your protection isn't becoming cynical and trusting no one. It's recognizing that loyalty has limits and conditions, even when those limits aren't explicitly acknowledged. Build redundancy in your relationships. Don't make yourself dependent on any single person's loyalty. Provide value to multiple people so that any single person's loyalty shift doesn't devastate you. And most importantly, recognize that when people's loyalty shifts, it's usually not personal, it's strategic adaptation to change circumstances. They're not evil for adapting, they're human. Understanding this prevents the naive devastation that comes from believing loyalty is unconditional and then discovering it isn't. Pattern 3, victims are more dangerous than obvious threats. Here's where Machiavelli's observations become truly unsettling. He documented that the people who appeared most harmless, who positioned themselves as victims, who seemed weak and wounded, were often the most dangerous because their apparent powerlessness prevented others from defending against them. The person who openly threatens you activates your defenses. You prepare, you protect, you respond. But the person who positions themselves as your victim bypasses your defenses entirely. You feel protective rather than defensive. You lower your guard. You provide access and resources. And that's exactly when they strike. This pattern operates everywhere once you see it. The colleague who constantly plays victim to avoid accountability while accumulating power through sympathy and support. The romantic partner who uses claimed vulnerability to control you through guilt and obligation. The family member whose perpetual crises keep everyone else's resources flowing toward them. The strategic victim gains enormous power while appearing powerless. They can't be criticized without the critic. Appearing cruel, they can't be held accountable without accusations of victim blaming. They receive resources and support without reciprocal obligations. And they can destroy opponents by framing those opponents as oppressors. Machiavelli observed that political actors who successfully positioned themselves as victims often maneuvered themselves into power, while those who appeared strong became targets. The same dynamic operates in personal and professional contexts. The person everyone sees as victim has protection and advantages that obvious threats don't. Your protection requires distinguishing genuine suffering from strategic victimhood. Genuine victims eventually move toward recovery and don't use their victimization to avoid all accountability or extract unlimited resources. Strategic victims remain perpetually in crisis, use victimhood to avoid accountability, and escalate victim claims when boundaries are set. Watch for people whose victimhood always serves their strategic interests, who are somehow always the innocent party in conflicts, who use claims of victimization to shut down criticism or questioning. These patterns indicate weaponized victimhood rather than genuine suffering. The truly dangerous person is the one you don't perceive as dangerous because they've positioned themselves as harmless victim. Your most significant threat may be the person you're currently feeling most protective toward. Pattern Fower. Love is strategic biology, not transcendent connection. Machiavelli didn't write extensively about romantic love, but his observations about human nature reveal uncomfortable truths about it. What you experience as falling in love is neurochemical manipulation designed to get you to bond and reproduce. It's temporary, it impairs judgment, and it's fundamentally strategic rather than transcendent. The intense feeling you call love lasts 6 months to 3 years maximum. Your brain literally cannot maintain that neurochemical state longer. It's metabolically too expensive and would impair your ability to function. So, evolution designed romantic love to be intense enough to create bonding, but temporary enough not to destroy your broader functioning. This means every decision you make based on romantic love, including who to marry, is being made under the influence of a temporary neurochemical state that impairs your judgment about the very question it's being used to answer. You're betting your future on feelings that are guaranteed to change, using judgment that's compromised by those very feelings. When the neurochemistry normalizes, you're left with whoever you chose based on impaired judgment. And you have to figure out if you're actually compatible with them for the decades of partnership that don't involve intense romantic feeling. Most people discover they aren't, which is why divorce rates approach 50% for first marriages and increase for subsequent marriages. The person you think you can't live without right now is the result of dopamine, norepinephrine, and serotonin fluctuations in your brain, creating temporary obsession. In a year or two, when those chemicals normalize, the person will seem less extraordinary and the relationship will depend on actual compatibility rather than neurochemical intoxication. Machiavelli would recognize this immediately. As humans being controlled by biological imperatives they mistake for transcendent experiences, you think you're making a choice based on profound connection. You're actually responding to ancient biological programming designed to propagate genes without regard for your long term happiness or compatibility. Your protection is recognizing that romantic love is the worst possible criterion for choosing a life partner because it's temporary and impairs judgment. Evaluate potential partners for actual compatibility, financial values, life goals, communication styles, lifestyle preferences, while recognizing that romantic feeling is temporary intoxication rather than reliable guide to relationship viability. Build relationships on compatible partnership rather than intense feeling. The feeling will fade regardless. Compatible partnership can last decades if chosen wisely when judgment is clear rather than during neurochemical intoxication. Pattern 5. Every relationship is power negotiation. Machiavelli's most fundamental observation. All human interaction is negotiation over power distribution. Every relationship involves constant, mostly unconscious negotiation about who has what power, who controls what resources, who sets what boundaries. This negotiation never stops because power dynamics remain constantly in flux. Watch any relationship and you'll see this. Who controls the schedule, whose preferences take priority, whose boundaries get respected, who has final say on major decisions, who has access to resources. These questions get negotiated constantly through thousands of small interactions that establish power, distribution. Most people are unconscious of this negotiation, which means they're losing it constantly to people who are conscious of it. You think you're just accommodating your friend by changing plans again. Actually, you're establishing that their preferences override yours. You think you're being generous with your partner by funding things disproportionately. Actually, you're establishing economic dependence that shifts power. Every accommodation, every compromise, every boundary you let slide establishes precedent about power distribution. The person who learns they can disrespect your boundaries learns they have power over you. The person who learns you'll always accommodate their preferences learns they control the relationship. The person who learns they can extract resources without reciprocation learns they're the beneficiary of unequal exchange. These power distributions, once established, become increasingly difficult to renegotiate. The person who's established they can cancel on you last minute won't easily accept you setting firmer boundaries. The person who's established they can treat you poorly won't easily accept you demanding respect. You've trained them through past accommodation that your boundaries are negotiable. Machiavelli observed that princes who failed to establish and maintain power found themselves controlled by those they thought they controlled. Your relationships work identically if you're not consciously establishing boundaries and maintaining them. You're unconsciously surrendering power to others who may or may not use it benevolently. Your protection is recognizing that every interaction involves power negotiation, whether you acknowledge it or not. The person who's conscious of this negotiation can participate strategically. The person who's unconscious of it participates anyway but loses consistently because they're unaware of what's being negotiated. Set boundaries early, enforce them consistently, recognize when Samyan is testing boundaries and respond firmly. Maintain reciprocity in resource exchange. Don't accommodate so much that you establish you have no limits. Conscious power negotiation protects you from unconscious power surrender. Pattern 6, your beliefs are managed by others' interests. Machiavelli observed that successful rulers controlled what their subjects believed more than what their subjects did. Control belief and behavior follows automatically. This pattern operates today with sophistication that would astound Machiavelli, but follows principles he documented perfectly. The beliefs you hold about politics, morality, relationships, success, happiness, most weren't developed through independent examination. They were installed by people and institutions whose interests those beliefs serve. Your values feel authentic, but were shaped by exposure to narratives designed to make you think, feel, and behave in ways beneficial to others. This isn't conspiracy theory. It's basic social engineering that operates openly once you learn to see it. Media narratives shape political beliefs in ways that serve specific interests. Educational systems instill values that create compliant workers and consumers. Social norms enforce behaviors that maintain existing power structures. Marketing creates desires that fuel economic activity. You believe you've independently concluded certain things. Actually, you've been exposed to carefully crafted information and narratives designed to lead you toward predetermined conclusions. The beliefs feel like yours because the process of installation was subtle enough not to trigger resistance. Watch this operate in real time. An issue emerges. Within days, you've been exposed to dozens of narratives, all pointing towards similar conclusions, despite appearing to come from independent sources. The consensus feels organic but was manufactured through coordinated narrative. Dimly, you adopt views that feel like independent judgment but actually reflect successful narrative management. Machiavelli would recognize this immediately as sophisticated application of principles he documented. The ruler who controlled subjects' beliefs controlled their behavior without requiring force. Modern systems have perfected this controlling beliefs through narrative saturation, social pressure, and algorithmic information filtering. That ensures you're primarily exposed to views that serve specific interests. Your protection requires recognizing that your beliefs have been shaped by others' interests and actively working to identify those interests and their mechanisms. Question beliefs that conveniently serve powerful interests. Seek information from sources that aren't algorithmically filtered to confirm your existing views. Recognize that consensus often reflects successful narrative management rather than truth. This doesn't mean becoming paranoid or rejecting all beliefs. It means holding beliefs more lightly, recognizing they were shaped through social processes designed to serve interests that may not be yours, and remaining open to revising beliefs when you recognize their origin or service. The integration clears throat living with forbidden knowledge. Now you understand patterns you can't unsee. Everyone performs constantly. All loyalty is conditional. Victims may be your greatest threats. Love is temporary. Neurochemistry, every interaction negotiates power. Your beliefs were installed by others, interests. This knowledge is dangerous because it strips away comfortable illusions that make social life bearable. You can't trust the way you did before. You can't believe in unconditional loyalty. You can't assume people's presentations reflect their authentic selves. You can't make major decisions based on romantic feeling. You can't unconsciously surrender power in relationships. You can't accept your beliefs as simply true rather than strategically installed. Living with this knowledge requires rebuilding your approach to relationships on realistic foundations. Accept that everyone performs and enjoy the performance without expecting it to be complete authenticity. Build relationships on mutual benefit that serves both parties rather than expecting unconditional loyalty. Evaluate people's behavior patterns over tame rather than accepting their claimed victimhood automatically. Make major life decisions based on practical compatibility when judgment is clear rather than during neurochemical intoxication. Consciously negotiate power in relationships rather than unconsciously surrendering it. Examine your beliefs for whose interests they serve and revise accordingly. This isn't becoming cynical or paranoid, it's becoming strategic and protected. Machiavelli didn't write to make people cruel. He wrote to prevent good people from being destroyed by those who already understood these patterns and used them without conscience. The people who rise to power in any context are usually those who understand these patterns already. They know everyone performs. They exploit conditional loyalty. They weaponize victimhood when useful. They don't let love impair important decisions. They negotiate power consciously, and they shape others' beliefs strategically. Your choice is whether to remain naive and be controlled by these patterns or understand them and participate consciously. Naivety doesn't protect you from manipulation. It ensures you'll be manipulated by those who understand what you don't. The final warning: you can't unwatch this. You'll recognize these patterns everywhere now. In every relationship, in every interaction, in every institution, you'll see the performance beneath presentations. You'll notice loyalty evaporating when conditions change. You'll identify strategic victimhood. You'll recognize neurochemical intoxication being mistaken for profound connection. You'll observe power negotiations operating constantly. You'll catch narrative management attempting to shape your beliefs. Some days you'll wish you could return to comfortable ignorance. You can't. The patterns are too obvious now. The manipulation is too visible. The games are too apparent. But you're also protected in ways you weren't before. You can't be manipulated as easily through mechanisms you now recognize. You can't be betrayed as devastatingly because you don't expect unconditional loyalty. You can't be controlled through performed presentations because you see through the performance. You won't make catastrophic decisions based on temporary neurochemistry. You won't unconsciously surrender power. You won't accept managed beliefs. Uncritically, Machiavelli paid the price for documenting these patterns: exile, cute poverty, and having his name become synonymous with evil for revealing truths that threatened existing power structures. But his observations survive because they describe reality with uncomfortable accuracy. You now have knowledge that's been forbidden, suppressed, and distorted for 500 years. What you do with it determines whether it becomes curse or protection. Use it to manipulate others, and you become what Machiavelli has been falsely accused of teaching. Use it to protect yourself while treating others fairly, and you become what Machiavelli actually was: someone who sees reality clearly and navigates it successfully without becoming its victim. The choice is yours. The patterns won't change. Your awareness of them has changed permanently. Welcome to reality without comfortable illusions. It's less pleasant but far more accurate than the alternative. And remember, this isn't safe to watch twice, because once is enough to change how you see everything forever.